The unification of cloud control planes is quickly becoming an increasingly important part of efficient IT administration. On-Premises Nutanix Central provides a unified console that allows for the efficient operation of all your Nutanix infrastructure. Hi, I'm Chris from the Nutanix Technical Marketing Engineering team. In part 1 of this video series, we covered the preparation steps required for a deployment of On-Premises Nutanix Central. In this video, part 2 in that series, we cover the actual deployment of the Nutanix Central application. Let's get started. During this video, a number of steps will be completed. To summarize, the primary steps are as follows. At the start of the deployment, the Nutanix Central fully qualified domain name is specified. This is a critical step in the deployment as a number of other DNS components rely on the FQDN. One of these components is the correct specification of valid Certificate Authority Verified SSL certificates that are required for secure component communication. The selection of the relevant Prism element cluster will allow the selection of the appropriate subnet used for Nutanix Central components, including deployment sizing and network configuration. Once these steps are completed, a pre-check process is carried out, ensuring the deployment has all the information required to continue, and at this point, the deployment itself can begin. The first step in the on-premises deployment is the selection of Nutanix Central from the Nutanix Marketplace. Note, this step assumes the preparation steps have been completed, as these will allow the application to become available in the Marketplace. As described in the video intro, the Nutanix Central fully qualified domain name is specified. A critical requirement of this step is for the fully qualified domain name to be correctly resolved using the configured Prism Central name servers. Domain name resolution failure is considered a pre-check failure in upcoming steps. Following the FQDN specification, Certificate Authority Verified SSL certificates can now be uploaded. This process requires both the certificate key and the certificate itself, which must be trusted by Prism Central and correctly signed by a certificate authority. These SSL certificates ensure secure communication between client sessions, the Nutanix Central components, and the Prism Central components that are required for Nutanix Central operation. For example, one of these components includes Nutanix IAM, Identity and Authorization Management. With the FQDN and SSL certificates prepared, the next step is to select the relevant Prism element cluster. This selection allows specification of deployment sizing as well as network settings for the Nutanix Central deployment. The network settings specified here are critical for correct Nutanix Central operation, as they include the static IP addresses used by the underlying service MSP cluster. Equally important, the specified external IP addresses must be correctly mapped to the previously specified Nutanix Central fully qualified domain name. The IP addresses must also be reserved and must not overlap with the selected subnet's DHCP range. Domain name resolution at this stage is considered a pre-check failure in upcoming steps. Finally, with all required information supplied and verified by the user, the Nutanix Central application deployment process will complete a pre-check step. This step verifies the FQDN can be resolved via the configured name servers, the SSL certificates are valid for the FQDN, and the network information is valid and non-overlapping. With the pre-check process complete and successful, on-premises Nutanix Central deployment begins. The remainder of the deployment requires no user interaction other than monitoring, unless an unexpected deployment issue arises. Similar to the familiar application deployment using NCM Self-Service, the Audit tab can be used to monitor the entire process from start to finish. As each step is completed, the Audit tab will display relevant information, including generated messages covering both information or warnings and errors if any were encountered. The deployment shown here provisioned the underlying service MSP cluster, per service package steps, and, finally, the starting of all relevant Nutanix Central services. Lastly, when all steps are completed, the application deployment status is reflected in both the Audit tab and in the My Apps page within Prism Central's Admin Center. For the purposes of this demo, the entire deployment has been shown but has been edited during certain longer steps. With the deployment process finished, environment and customer-specific configuration can now be completed as per the documentation available at my.nutanix.com. To learn more or to try Nutanix Central for yourself, head over to nutanix.com/products/Nutanix Central. Thanks for watching.